Go ahead. Turn it up. It's the Record Machine Show with your host, Jimmy Howe.
Will we have the smoke or the altitude? The July sky was the only other one that knew. We were chasing stars and freedom. Wrapped in his arms, our hearts were beating. Forever seemed so close when it was new. Damn you, Colorado. Rocky Mountains on a back road. He swore that he loved me, so I gave him everything. And 10 miles south of Boulder, he told me we were over, that he'd met somebody, and I'm just a memory. So damn you, Colorado. Funny how I still recall everything, from the chill of the night air to him kissing me, and my sorority t-shirt and moonlit sky. We planned out the rest of our lives. Now it's all so bittersweet. Damn you, Colorado. Rocky Mountains on the back road, where he swore he loved me, so I gave him everything. And 10 miles south of Boulder, he said we were over, that he'd met somebody, and I'm just a memory. So damn you, Colorado. Damn you, Colorado. Damn you, Colorado. Damn you, Colorado. Rocky Mountains on that back road. It's where he swore he loved me, so I gave him everything. Then 10 miles south of Boulder, he said we were over, that he met somebody, and it's just a memory. So damn you, Colorado. Damn you, Colorado. Whoa. Damn you, Colorado. Damn you, Colorado.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome singer-songwriter Jennifer Alvarado. Jen, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Where are you calling from today?
I am in North Carolina today.
Oh, you're not too far from me then. I'm in North Myrtle Beach.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's not that far, right?
No, I can't remember how long it takes us to get there. Maybe 5 hours, something like that.
Yeah, that's not
Yeah,
too
we
bad.
always stay in Cherry Grove, North Myrtle when we go. We love it there.
Yeah, that's not that far from me, actually. That's about maybe 5 or 10 minute drive.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, so you grew up in North Carolina?
Yeah, so I grew up in Hickory. And then once I got married, we moved to Vale, which is like 30 minutes away. And then I spend a good amount of time in Nashville. I'm back and forth. We have friends that live in Portland, so they're nice enough to just let me stay there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we're talking about possibly moving there just because it's so hard to really, when you're not there, things pop up last minute, and it's very hard to kind of get involved in that community if you're not local. So I try to stay like a week at a time, like at the end of the month or something like that, to, you know, have my co-writes and meet people and all of that, do the networking thing. But I don't know. our entire family is here in North Carolina, and most of our family is older.
Right.
And so it's just, it's difficult to think about leaving completely.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally understand that. Now, how is the music scene where you are?
Charlotte's really good. So I'm playing more in Charlotte these days. I do a lot of shows in Upper South Carolina. I've got shows in Virginia this year, couple in Kentucky. So I'm staying in this region, but I would say around the Hickory, obviously the Vale area, like nothing. So, I mean, unless I'm going to sing for some cows, like there's nothing. So, but I mean, Lincolnton has some places, Hickory's got places. The problem is you have, you know, very few places, and you have kind of a maxed out group, if that makes sense. Like they're pretty much in control of everything around here. So you have your dominant people. And honestly, most of them, they're okay doing just the indie scene, like not really trying for like a publishing deal or anything like that. So that's what they want to do. And where I'm a little bit different, where I'm wanting to be part of that Nashville scene and hopefully get a publishing deal one day. And because my heart is more with the songwriting.
That makes sense. Now, tell me about your musical background and training. When did it start for you?
So I started writing songs, honestly, when I was about 4 or 5 years old.
Wow.
So started making up songs and skits and all that kind of stuff. I loved writing. I loved the creative process. So even before I was really doing the music thing as far as singing, I was writing short stories and I was writing lyrics and stuff like that, and would make up these songs. And so probably, I think I was like 7 or 8, and I got involved with like school choir and stuff like that, and church choir, because my parents saw that like I needed that musical outlet. But it wasn't until I was probably 10, and I started singing like solos and stuff like that, and got into musical theater in middle school. And honestly, I kind of focused on visual arts and even sports during middle school and early high school, because I had a lot of performance anxiety after my grandmother passed away. I shared music with her. And so when she passed away, things kind of just went sideways for a little bit. And I had a lot of nerves when it came to singing in front of people and doing the music thing. Even though I had been doing it and I loved it, it was all of a sudden like I noticed people's opinions and all of that all of a sudden once I got into probably 11 or 12 years old. And so it wasn't until high school that I started working with a teacher who basically was just like, just sing the song, like, and really helped me fall back in love with performing and all that. So started doing that again. I would go out to karaoke bars and sing at karaoke bars until they figured out that I was underage, and then get kicked out. And just kind of kept singing that way. Started taking guitar lessons, piano lessons, basically any type of musical outlet I could find. I was doing it along with songwriting. And so that just kind of progressed. I got involved again with church stuff and started leading a couple ensembles through that. I was a worship leader. And it just progressed. And then 2020 came around, and I think everybody sort of reevaluated life. And I was sort of to this place of, because I had been pursuing contemporary Christian music. And that was very much worship leading, wanting to be a worship pastor. I'm a worship pastor now. But that was very much my, I guess, where I thought I was supposed to be going and the road that I was on. And things just sort of made a turn. And in 2020, I sort of reevaluated everything and started releasing the country pop stuff, and it took off on its own and kind of brings us here today. So that's what I've been really focusing on for the past few years, is working toward that goal of hopefully maybe one day having a publishing deal for writing, but also just seeing where the country pop stuff can go.
Nice. Now, who were some of your biggest musical influences and how have they shaped your style, would you say?
I am a very eclectic person. So I grew up primarily, staying with my grandparents and everything. They kept me during the day, and I think they had a huge influence on my music. My papa played every stringed instrument you can think of. And so, and he was he was much more into bluegrass and traditional country. Mm-hmm. And my nanny was very much into traditional country. So, and then 90s country. So that definitely had an impact on me. My mom was more into top 40 classic rock. So a lot of Eagles, Tom Petty, stuff like that. I had a babysitter who was very much into like grunge and early 90s stuff like that. So mm-hmm. I got into kind of the grunge thing. But I would say my biggest influences definitely Reba McEntire from a standpoint of performer, entertainer, vocal wise. Martina McBride was a huge impact. And even some of the songwriters for her, just that's where I really fell in love. Like the song Independence Day, for example. I remember when I first heard that song because I thought that was literally a story about her life. Mm-hmm. And I realized in that moment the power of songwriting, because I was like 7 or 8 years old when I first heard that song, and I was just enthralled with it and thought, this is what a song can do if you know how to write. So songwriting wise has been probably the biggest influence. I love the way Taylor Swift can coin a phrase, mm-hmm. but Patty Griffin is another one that is an amazing songwriter. And a lot of the 90s, like late 90s, early 2000s singer-songwriters had an impact on me. I love people that write their own music, and then perform it, because I think that you see a little bit more of them mm-hmm. than maybe the regular artist that's just being given songs. I mean, because there's a truth to it, and I love knowing people's stories. Very nice. Now, you have several EPs to date, Playing with Fire being one, Songbird Part 1, and your recent one, Songbird Part 2. Mm-hmm. Do you plan on releasing a full-length album at any point, and if so, when? So Songbird was actually a full-length album. Okay. And actually Playing with Fire was supposed to be. So Playing with Fire, I was recording right around when all of the pandemic happened. And basically what happened was I had probably like half the album done. Mm-hmm. And then everything kind of shut down. And so while it was shut down, I was like, well, I need to do something with these songs. I need to do something in general. And so I started releasing them. And so when the time came around, July of 2021, mm-hmm. for Playing with Fire to be released, it was like, well, I don't want to release an EP with half the songs already out. At that time, like, it just didn't make sense to me. So I went ahead and released the rest of the album, basically, of Playing with Fire. So when I actually made the hard copies of these, because people still buy CDs. Oh, I do too. But when I made the hard copies, it's actually an extended. So Playing with Fire actually has those 2020 songs on it as well. So it really is a full, I think it's got 13 or 14 songs on it. Oh, okay. And then as far as Songbird, really what happened there was the project seemed so heavy as I was going through it, that it just made sense to break it up into 2 parts, because I really wanted that first part to be sort of the story of this relationship that starts out and it's great and it's wonderful, and then it just deteriorates over time, and the questions you're left with. And then part 2 is very much like the rebuilding after this relationship. And so I didn't want this whole album of like just somber. I mean, there are some fast, happy songs on there, but I really wanted there to be 2 distinct parts. And I thought the best way of doing that was part 1 and part 2. But when I actually made the CD, the whole CD is just the Songbird project.
This podcast is going to feature two of your tracks, Run Girl Run and Colorado. What's the story behind those two songs?
So Run Girl Run, I actually have not played that one out. I don't think I've ever played that one out. It's very much a warning. Like if I could go back and warn myself about some people and just places and things, and see it from the other side of, it looks great in the moment, but it's not, and it's going to hurt you. So it's very much just a warning song of this is going to break you. And that's where I was in that period of time, because I was transitioning out of what I thought was going to be my career path and what I was going to be doing and where I was going to be doing it and all of these things. And it was just a really hurtful, but growth time, in my life. And I look back on it now and I see why it had to happen. And I'm honestly grateful that it did. I think I could have avoided some of the pain had I not been so stubborn and bullheaded about some things. But I am that person that holds on till the bitter end. And so that's really what that song is about. Colorado, which is actually going to be on this next project that I'm working on now, and it's the first single off of it. It was my response to Dan and Shay's Tequila. So I've always loved that song. But when I would listen to that song, I would just think, if this relationship was so great and you keep coming back to it and thinking about it, like, what happened? And so it left me with all these questions. And so that literally came out of a response that I just wanted an ending to that song. I wanted the full story. My husband jokes and says, because there's a line in there that says, "Damn you, Colorado." And he swears that it's actually "Damn you, Alvarado." That is not true. That is not true whatsoever. We are very happily married. Everything's fine. But he jokes and says that all the time. So that is, that song in particular is from a, it's a fictional story, to say the least. But I think that anybody who's ever been in a relationship, especially because I kind of based it around a relationship that I had in college, where you put all of these thoughts into it. You think it's going to last forever, and it doesn't. And, I was in a sorority and all that. So there's definitely truthful pieces of that song, but it is based around Tequila by Dan and Shay.
Nice. Now, how do you go about composing a new song? What comes first, the melody or the lyrics?
Probably the melody comes first in most cases. I will say that. But I will say every single song is a little bit different. I tend to get some kind of melodic riff in my head, or there's a phrase that just comes and I want to build around it. So that's usually how it happens. But I have voice memos of many, many, like, fully musical parts that just have not had lyrics put to them yet. So it's kind of, honestly, at this point, it's about 50-50 on how I compose.
Nice. Now, what tools or instruments are essential in your songwriting?
Probably my guitar is the most important. I tend to write a lot from piano, especially ballads. I hear things differently when I'm writing with a keyboard or piano. I hear things more in their totality and know what other instrumentation I want to put with it. I picked up guitar essentially because I wanted to be able to just sit down and write songs. And I thought chording and all of that would really help me understand the melody proponents of a song. So I would say guitar, but also keyboard. Those are the two main things. And of course, just vocals. I love figuring out background vocals and how to sort of add other little just nuances when you do the vocals and when you add little ad libs and all that. So those are probably the three main ones. And then of course I go to my producer. We go into the studio and we kind of lay down everything else from that. And it just kind of builds on like a layer cake at that point.
I read in the bio that you sent me that just recently you won the Silver Entertainer of the Year award for the 2023 International Singer-Songwriter Awards. What's it like doing something that you love so much and then actually winning an award for it?
I'm very grateful for it. I think that's the biggest thing. I spent a lot of years sort of just kind of on the sidelines and doing life. And I was at that point, I was in a job that I didn't like, but, it pays bills and you grow. And I was always that practical person that was like, well, yeah, but you got to have a realistic job and you can't do this for a living. And I had to get past myself, honestly. And so when you actually win something like that, and it's kind of validation to yourself that, okay, maybe I am on the right path. Maybe I am doing a little something right here. But I think also for me, it shows growth. And so I'm very grateful for that growth because, there was a time where I was even too scared to get up and sing. And so to be able to get past that and go and play 3-4 hour shows consistently, and people actually support you and come out and see you and all of those things, that's huge. And so I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful to God that he has given me the opportunity to be able to go out and do what I love, and actually be able to do it as a living.
Yeah, and you've won several awards before that as well, correct?
I have, yes.
So you must be pretty proud of all the things that you've accomplished in such a short time, right?
I am. And yes, it's definitely, it's been a wild little ride for the past couple years. I think that, there's also sort of a pressure that comes with that sometimes. And so I want to make sure that at the end of the day, I'm living into my purpose. Because I think you can very quickly start focusing on like that next award and trying to outdo yourself for the next time. And so that is one thing that I really want to focus on this year, is making sure that the music speaks for itself and that it's coming from a real place. But I want to make sure in the end that I'm actually somehow giving back to society and this world, and not just, I guess, collecting things. And,
right.
I think at the end of the day, you want to know that you're actually like helping the world out somehow with your music. Because that's what music always has been for me, is that safe place where I felt like somebody understood me. And I felt like I had one other person that sort of related to what I was maybe going through, even though our stories didn't line up, but still that somebody knew where I was coming from. And so I hope I can do that. That's my biggest goal with music, is to help somebody feel like maybe they have a friend and what they're hearing and me and my story. So
nice. Now, what's next for you? Any upcoming shows, projects, or tours? Yeah,
so I've always got shows.
Well, that's good.
So yeah, which is great in itself. So I have 2 shows this weekend that are, one is in Mocksville, North Carolina. It's at the station. It's actually tomorrow night. And then I have, another one Saturday, but if you'll go on my website, it's jenniferalvarado.com, and you can go up to music and click on 2024 tour, and it'll have all my dates on there I'm adding some as we speak, but for right now, it's got everything on there. It's always tentative, but it's definitely there. And then I'll be in Nashville later on in the month. And I think I have Virginia shows. I have a Virginia show next week, and then I'm back in South Carolina. So I'm sort of all over for the next few weeks. That's sort of where I'm at.
Yeah, I was looking at your website, and under the shop button, it looks like you also have some courses that you teach. Do you still do that?
Some. With my schedule the way it is, it's hard. But definitely, if somebody wants to get in touch, whether it be for a guitar lesson or whether it be for sit down and we go through a song and I help you with that, which, whatever you want to do, email me and we'll carve out some time.
Very cool. Now, is there anything you'd like to mention that we didn't talk about today?
I guess just be on the lookout. I'm currently I'm taking a couple weeks off before I go back into the studio to finish this next project. But so probably later on in 2024, I'll be putting out a new. I haven't decided if it's going to be an EP or album yet. I'm somewhere in between. I might divide it up just because the way streaming and everything kind of goes these days, sometimes it makes more sense to do an EP. Mm-hmm. But definitely new music near the end of the year, along with some new songs to be added to the Christmas EP that I put out at the end of last year. So definitely be on the lookout for new music, and also just if you're in the southeastern United States and can come to a show, I would love to meet you. So.
Awesome. Well, Jen, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day and chatting with me. I had a great time talking with you, and I really love the music that you're putting out, and I'm looking forward to hearing the new stuff when it comes out. And we have each other's contact information. I'd love to have you back on again when that EP or album comes out.
That would be awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on today.
Well, you're welcome. Like I said, you're welcome back anytime, and let's stay in touch, all right?
Okay, sounds good.
All right, you have a good day, all right?
You too.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Show is a weekly radio podcast produced by Jimmy Howell Productions. All rights reserved. For information regarding distribution or adding this podcast to your website, please visit our contact page at therecordmachineshow.com to submit your request. Thanks for listening. See you next time on The Record Machine Show.
The Record Machine Show.